Hello friends. We all know that in modern era how popular DevOps is. And for that reason people often need to learn technology like Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes or Terraform, Ansible, or even someone wants to go for a cloud automation like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, or for login purpose you need to know Prometheus. But can you guess, in all these applications, in all these technology, there's one thing that is very common which you need to know, you have to master it, and then only you can be successful in cloud applications, and that is called shell script. Since your server is all based on Unix platform, so you have to have a strong grip over shell script, because shell script is responsible for all kind of automation or repetitive activities. So for that reason I thought to come up with some very minute modules in context to shell script that will make you confident in context to DevOps application. So in today's video I want to show you that how you would be taking user input, and for that reason I came up with a very simple program that will take two numbers and will perform some basic calculation. And I believe those who are coming from computer science background, this form of program you must have done in your college, but my perspective over here is to take you to the inside story of how this particular program is working actually, and try to explore some of the nitty-gritty that will make the thing more realistic. So let's work on this particular program now. So right now I'm inside the folder called training, and at first let's see the long listing of the file of this particular folder. As I see over here, you can see that since this contains a file, so there is a hyphen over here which implies that calculate.sh is a file. And we all know that there are three different forms are given initially: the user, the group, and the other. Well, the user has a read and write permission, but what is missing is the execute permission. So unless and until you don't have execute permission, it will not work actually. So we need to assign the execute permission, and for that reason we have a wonderful command called change mode. And who is going to have execute permission? That is a user. And I want to assign execute permission. So when you have to assign something, you will be using plus symbol, and if you have to revoke the permission, then you will be using the minus symbol. So I want to assign the execute permission to the user alone, and on the file called calculate, right? I hit the enter, the command prompt comes back again, and let's type ls-l one more time to see whether the execute permission has been assigned successfully or not. Yes, here it goes. The read write was there initially, as you can see over here. Execute permission has now been assigned to the user. So that means the user is now able to execute the program. Which particular program? The shell script. And for that reason you have a file, or I have created a file called calculate.sh. make sure all shell script files should have an extension called .sh. Okay, so now we will execute this piece of code. So how will we execute? This file is present currently in the working directory, and what is the file name? Calculate.sh. So in the working directory I have a file called calculate.sh, and I hit the enter. The moment I hit the enter, what you will see, it will prompt me to enter to number, and that is coming from the echo. So with the help of echo I can display a statement, and the statement is very clearly mentioned that it is asking me to enter two numbers. So let's consider my first number to be 3. I give a space so that the 3 goes and assigned to a variable called a, and next value is 2, so that it goes to the variable called b. So that means as I give a space, so this space technically is known as delimiter. That means how you are separating one value that will be assigned in one variable with another value that will be assigned in another variable. That's how you are working. Okay, and as I hit the enter, what would actually happen? Well, naturally the input will be assigned to the respective variable, and then the print statement will come in front, and subsequently all the action will be executed. But wait, something very important you need to know. First of all, take a note over here. These variables are accepting the user input, but if you are coming from regular programming language background like C or Java or C++, we all know that before we assign any value to a variable, we need to declare the variable, and while declaring it we need to assign a data type, right? But if you are coming from Python background, then also you know that we can directly assign value to the variable and we don't have to mention the data type explicitly. There is no need of. But Python and Unix, there is a huge difference. In case of Python, based on the value which you are assigning, there is a feature called type inference that works in Python. Python is so intelligent interpreter that it will understand that you are given a numeric value, so it will assign the value inside the variable in the form of numeric, and that's where type inferencing feature of Python comes in picture. But do that feature is there even in case of Unix? The answer is no. You heard rightly, the answer is no. That means even though I'm giving a numeric value 3 and 2, unfortunately Unix will not treat them as numbers, rather than it will be considered as string type. And to prove that, here I have written %s. See, printf, we are aware about this particular term in C language. Printf, %s, the conversion specifier. So we are going to print this value, but we are going to print it in the form of %s, because by default, please take it very seriously, in case of Unix, even though you are giving a numeric value, but by default Unix will consider that to be string type. So your A is not holding the value 3, rather it is wrapped within quotation. Your B is holding the value 2 wrapped within quotation. That's how it works. So by default it might seems like you are giving a numeric value, but in fact this numeric value is been treated by Unix as string value, and that's the reason why I can pass the conversion specifier %s. And not only that, along with %s I have written ABC. These are some arbitrary letters I have given. That also will be printed. Let me show you that also will print it. For the time being, just discard the other print statement. Look over here, focus on this line, don't see on these things. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me comment this entire portion, otherwise there will be distraction. Let me comment this part and let me clear the screen, and let's run the program once again, and let's give the value 3 and 2. And now let's look on this portion. See over here, ABC has been, it's been appended, it's been concatenated. Because this is a string, because 3 is a string, that's the reason ABC got concatenated, because we know that if you're printing a string, string has a concatenation feature. But if it was really a number, then this would have given you an error, because this would not be the part of the variable name, right? But this is not happening over here. You're simply concatenating the letters together. So %s first of all means is a string conversion specifier. So if it was not a string, then definitely the %s wouldn't have worked successfully, right? So make sure whenever you go for display or after taking the import from user a number, by default it is a string type, and this is a statement I just wanted to prove that it is a string type. Okay, one more thing comes over here. Why am I using this $sign? Right, this can be an important question. Why am I using $sign? Now when you assign these variables, where did you assign this? Well, these variables assigned inside the register of RAM. So now by default, when you have to fetch the data from these variables, you need to mention $sign. So $sign you need to mention at the time of retrieving value from the variable. Please take a note, at the time of fetching value from the variable. When you are assigning, at that point of time you don't need to pass any $sign, but whenever you have to collect the data back from the variable, you have to use a $sign. So $A means whatever value the variable A holds, that will be displayed right over here, %s. Similarly, $B means whatever value the user has given, that is right now 2, that will be represented or it will be replaced in place of %s. So $sign is very important at the time of retrieving value from the variable. So make sure you will keep this thing in mind. Okay. So what we prove from this, whenever you take a numeric value, by default it is of type string. But if it is so, then how will you do the calculation? Exactly, that's the main thing. How will you do the calculation? And that brings us to this wonderful concept, and that is what called, look over here, whenever you are performing any kind of calculation, if you have noticed very minutely, you will see something, that is we always give within parentheses. Two parentheses are given. Why these two parentheses are there? What is the agenda of these two? This is what actually you are replacing your string value to numbers. I repeat, with the help of these parentheses, or you must have seen a keyword called expr. Why do you use that keyword? It is the way of converting your string into numbers. Well, in case of Python, we have a function called int brace on brace close. Or if you're coming from Java background, we have a function called integer.parsend. Those functions were there through the help of which we could have done typecasting. But if you're coming from, if you're working on shell script, we don't have so-called functions that will do the typecasting. So for that reason, we have to use this double parenthesis. That's the way of conversion is taking place. So typecasting is not the right word in case of Unix, because we don't have the so-called functions which are there in other programming language. But in case we can see like this way, that with the help of this double parenthesis, we are actually converting your string into numbers, and then we are able to perform the calculation. So the calculated value, that is 3 plus 2 5, gets stored in the intermediate register within the main memory. Please follow what I am saying. 3 plus 2, after conversion, the result is 5. That gets stored inside the intermediate memory of the register, and from there you have to retrieve so that you can assign it inside the variable called C. So for that reason this $sign is there, because the resultant value got stored inside a register, and you need to collect the data back from the register, and you have to assign it inside the variable C. And for that reason this $sign is compulsory, very much compulsory, otherwise it will not work. You will just do the calculation and you cannot assign the value, the result you cannot assign it in C. So for that reason this $sign is there, because you are fetching the data from the intermediate register that has been storing your result, that is 5, and then you are assigning it to the variable C. Okay, and then finally we are printing this particular statement where we are saying that $A is retrieving the value, that is 3, $B is retrieving the value 2, and the $C is retrieving the result, that is 5. That's how all the statement will be executed one after the other. Let's run the code once again and let's see. Let's consider we have given the first input, that is 3, goes to the variable A, and the second input, that is 2, goes to the variable B, and the subsequent result is in front of you. I hope you can understand that these operators are very normal operators that we use in our daily programming. Plus, multiply, minus, divide, right? So when you're dividing, what you are going to get? You are going to get quotient. And if you want the modulus, if you want a remainder, then you have to go with this symbol, which is called a modulus, right? So you're dividing 3 by 2, you get a modulus of 1. You're dividing 3 by 2, you get a quotient of 1. Okay, now here we are going for the exponent, the power. So 3 to the power 2 is 9. That's what you are getting. And then we coming up with the postfix operator and the prefix operator. We know that the time when postfix operator works, at that point of time the value is not incremented. It is rather just been assigned. So over here my value of the variable A was 3, so the postfix initially didn't work, it just assigned 3 to C, and that's the reason why you are seeing 3 over here. But the time when it, if you print back the variable A once again, at that point of time you will see the incremented value, and that's what you are seeing over here. This is what the normal postfix operator does. But in case of prefix, right at the time when you execute the prefix, immediately the new value will be assigned to the variable C, and the reason why you are seeing 5. Oh, by the way, why you are seeing 5? Because already the variable A got incremented, no? Right over here it became 4. So for that reason 4 plus 1, 5, which you are seeing right over here, and your variable 5 A is holding 5, that too you are seeing over here. Okay, so finally, as we conclude this particular program, couple of things which was the most important part of the story, that is, whenever you're taking any input in user, be sure that input would be of string type, even though you're taking a numeric type. That's what we found right over here. And for that reason conversion becomes very important. You have to convert the value before you do any kind of computation. And lastly, the intermediate result is always been stored within the $sign. I mean within the register, and for that reason you need a dollar sign to pick up the data from the variable. So whenever you have to retrieve the value from a variable, make sure you use a dollar sign, because this is something which you have to do in case of shell script, which are not that important as of other programming languages concerned. But in case of shell script, you have to use a dollar sign for fetching the value back from the variable. But when you are doing computation at that point of time, you don't need anything like overall you don't need, because over here you have written the dollar sign. Okay, so with that we come to an end of this particular program, and we saw over here how to do the basic calculation. In my next program I will be talking about the string. Yes, string handling is very important, and then we will continue with other executions, but string will play a very crucial role in shell script. So please keep watching my video. Until then, have a nice time. Bye bye.